Okay, this is a really raw and honest episode. We're sitting down with Trevor and Barclay for a heartfelt conversation about the overlap between alcohol abuse and depression, and of course, the long road to healing. Each of us opens up about our personal struggles, what it feels like to hit emotional rock bottom, how we found our way back, and the daily practices that help us stay grounded. We're sharing stories of isolation, humor used as a lifeline, and the slow, patient work of rebuilding mental health without alcohol. There's no toxic positivity or promises of magic pills here. Just real talk about how hard it can be to keep going when nothing seems to be working, and why showing up for yourself and others matters more than you think. Before you continue listening, we want to make sure you're aware that there is some discussion about suicidal ideation in some of our stories and how we get to the other side of those dark feelings. If this is a subject that will be painful for you to listen to, we ask that you exercise caution when deciding whether to continue.
Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery podcast, where we believe that connection is the opposite of addiction, vulnerability is the antidote to shame, and that recovery isn't just rewarding, but it's also a lot of fun. We're your hosts, Julie and Steve. Listen as we get together with friends to shed light on the hard things, talk about the other side of addiction, and how we create a life so full there's no space left for alcohol.
The best way to stay up to date with all the new happenings in the Through the Glass community is to join our weekly newsletter. We share stories and tips for maintaining sobriety, as well as updating information about the podcast, weekly meetings, and even some journal questions to help you reflect each week. You can sign up at our website at throughtheglassrecovery.com.
All right. Hello and welcome everybody to Through the Glass Recovery podcast. So happy to be here with you today. And we've got a couple of great guys joining us. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It's been a little bit hectic to try to get this whole episode put together, just life happening the way life does. So really happy to finally make this one happen. But we're going to do intros the way we always do. And I'm going to let Trevor kick it off. He's done this once before a long time ago. So you get to go first, Trevor. How's it going?
I am good. How is everybody here?
Good.
Good.
Good. Good. My name is Trevor Kevelo. I've been sober for a little over 7 years now, I believe 7 years, 1 month. I'm a comedian. I've lived in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Austin. I'm back in my hometown in Chicagoland right now. I'm here for about another year or so. And I've traveled the country doing stand-up as well as working with people in recovery. And just trying to help them in any way, shape, or form I can. I focus with pretty much men 40 and up, men that don't like to talk about their feelings as much, but I'm open to working and helping anybody I can. So
Welcome to the club.
yeah, cute.
And that don't like to talk about the feelings as much. I love it.
Yeah, love that.
Man,
Get on.
that's needed. That is so needed. So thank you for doing what you do. And just so our listeners know, Trevor's got some cool stuff on social media. We're going to make sure we drop the links in the show notes. So for sure, check that out. Trevor, good to have you back. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And next we've got Barclay. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's fun to be on here. But my name's Barclay Mullins. I'm from Louisiana. I just turned 46 on Friday and was just in Vegas last weekend. So I love that city. Even though I don't drink, but my sobriety date is February 10th of 2019. I'm in the movie world. I just produced an animation movie for Christmas. I've got a meme documentary coming out next month. So currently I'm in the movie world trying to do some movie stuff. So that's kind of my bio.
So you have a documentary on memes?
On memes, yes. It came, well, I went to the premiere in Los Angeles 2 years ago, and Adam Carolla's involved, Cedric the Entertainer, and it's taken 2 years to get to this next month, so I can't wait for me to finally talk about it, promote it, and, say how you can watch it and all those things, but I can't wait.
That's exciting.
That is so cool. Awesome. Well, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Trevor. Thank you. You've got like 2 birthday boys hanging out with us today now too. And Barkley, for sure, let us know when you can promote that, and we will share it with all of our listeners too, because that sounds like it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, sure,
Uh,
definitely.
cool. Well, thank you both for being here. We're going to dive into like not the most happiest, cheerful topic in the entire world, but anyway, so depression and alcohol use seem to go hand in hand. At first, alcohol seems to be a viable treatment, self-medicating, as they say, but so often that turns into a really serious problem. And then when you remove alcohol from the equation, it means you're faced with coping and dealing with depression completely sober, often for the first time in a really long time. So the thought of it can be daunting, to say the least. And we are here to chat about what that has looked like to cope with depression without alcohol. What have you learned? How has it shown up in your life? What can you share with our listeners today? So there are no rules here. Anybody is welcome to jump in, and we're just going to chat about depression.
I'll jump.
Yeah, let's do it.
Don't jump with depression here.
Yeah, it reminds me of the song Jumper.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll say that for the first year I got sober, I definitely anxiety and depression, which go hand in hand, are like almost like twins, but not other what it would say unidentical twins, fraternal twins. I was dealing with a lot of ebbs and flows of feelings. My life was very chaotic with what I was doing at the time. I was running a restaurant and a comedy club inside of the restaurant in Los Angeles, which is a crazy city in every way, shape, or form, in the heart of Hollywood. So my experience with depression was, why do I feel like this? Why am I, what's really going on? I've had alcohol depression in the past when I drank, and then the next day, your levels drop and you feel like crap or shit. And and now I was feeling these feelings, and like that were natural, and I didn't know what to do. I would go through bouts of depression with my life and with my family, not being around them as much, but I actually had some major issues with anxiety, and they kind of teeter totter back and forth. And I learned how to manage it just by catching, how do I say it? Like, I call it, I felt it coming on. I felt like the storm coming, and like it when the weather drops and you're like, all right, a storm's coming. That's how I feel now. I know when something's a little out of whack, and it's just like I know how to deal with it, and I know what kind of mindset to put myself in. And I've been able to, I didn't really go through an actual, how do I put it, like depression, but I've been bouts of depression. And it all stems from just a lot of insecurities too, I think, for me personally. I had it when I did the podcast with you guys a year and a half ago. I was in Arizona, staying with someone, and started dating, and that turned into quite a bit of a nightmare. So that brought out a lot of insecurities, a lot of depression. I went to a dark place. I was not in good shape mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, all of them. But I learned how to dig myself out of it, and it's, scary as it sounds, it's like I needed to go through that. So if I ever go through that again, I know how to get out of it, and more importantly, helping the next person that goes through that. And that's where I'm at in my recovery. Is I'm all about helping the next person. Like I am just completely, that's my number one thing I do. Even above comedy and production, that's what I do, is helping people in any way I can. So yeah.
so let me ask you this. What is it that you said, like you've learned how to get out of it? You've learned
Um,
to see it coming, and you learned, what does that look like for you? And it's different for everybody, but what is that process for you?
so I have a term I use when I do my sober Sundays. I do those. I try to do them weekly, but I've been kind of lacking here and there. But I call it getting stuck in the mud. I I don't know how. I haven't read any books. I've watched a lot of different YouTube videos on, people that are in recovery and people that talk about addiction and the shadow work and all that stuff. Cause I kind of, I've done the step work, but I veered out of the step work and learned that there are other ways to get and stay sober and not be a dry drunk and to be a really useful and successful person. But as far as like learning how, it's kind of breathing techniques, and it's stopping kind of myself and my head, my mind, and saying, "What's really going on with you, dude?" And I do check-ins all the time. Like, I get annoyed with people or things around me, and I just take a step back. I'm like, "What's going on with you? What's your problem? You need to dig in there because what they're saying or doing doesn't always it's not always what they're saying or doing, it's what's how it's affecting me, and I have to look inside and say, "What's really pissing me off about this person or this situation?" And it's always comes back to me. So with the depression thing, when I feel those lows come down, I actually kinda ride it out, like a wave. I just ride it out. I know I'm not gonna get stuck in the mud because I've gotten out of it, and I know I don't have issues with it. And I've been in very dark places for an extended periods of time, and I just know that I'm gonna get out, and I have faith in that, and faith in myself and my higher power, and I just know, like, "Okay, you gotta go through this. This is a lesson that's being taught to you by something, and I just have to go through it," and I just kinda like I said, I take a step back, I do a lot of breathing, or go for a walk if it's nice out. So
Right.
that helps a ton, is being in nature and being around yourself or regrounding yourself. So,
Huge. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, when I accepted this invite to speak here, and there were 3 options, and one of them was family, one of them was sobriety, and then depression, and y I've lost 2 people to suicide, when I said yes to this. Since we've rescheduled, I've lost another person to suicide. There was a former counselor in Virginia that really kinda shook me. That I had an uncle that did it, then I had a coworker that did it, and now a previous, therapist. So, depression for me is something that kinda hits home because I kinda myself go through depression, episodes, and then you have these people that were, parts of your life that take this, permanent route. It shakes you, and I was really taken back, by the last one. Sorry.
No, no,
Uh,
we get it.
his name was Mike Thompson, and he gave his life to, like, service and to be a therapist and to help the city of Richmond, and it really hits home that, like, you go and talk to this person in the middle of your crap, your shit, your divorce, your addiction, and he helps you, and then you learn about this. It's just like, it really hits home, and it really hurts, and, like, it hurts me to hear about it. But in the middle of my junk and my addiction, my first, meeting was 2006. I always like to say that when I say my sobriety date, because 'cause it's been a lot of starts and stops, but in between there, one of my favorite statements is, "This too shall pass," and I so love that statement that, it's in Lonesome Day by Bruce Springsteen. He says it twice in that song, and it just hit home in the middle of my crap of, like, "This too shall pass." Like, this will pass. I liked it so much, I had to get the fire dancer Dave Matthews, and I said, "This too shall pass," on my right arm to remember. Even though I can't see it, I still think about it a lot, that this crap will pass. And I always like to preface this when I talk about suicide, because my sister-in-law was giving me crap about, "It's so selfish." I was like, "Well, yeah, but you don't know what Mike was dealing with." And it's hard to judge somebody for that. And if we could it's unfair. If we could step into their shoe and realize what they're going through, it may make a little bit more sense. But I just hate saying that, but it needs to be said. But it's like the sun will rise no matter what you're going through. Don't get stuck in this permanent spot in your life, and know that the sun will come up, the moon will rise, like, it will pass. Like, this crap that you're in, whether it's a you lost custody of your daughter, you're going through a divorce, you've left the family business, you're going through an addiction that sucks, you're in rehab, like, all this crap that you've faced, you will come out of this storm. it might take a lot longer than you thought, but I just hold on to this moral compass of like, this really sucks, but this is gonna be a Shawshank Redemption moment. I'm gonna crawl through the 400 yards of shit, and I will get through this crap that I am in my life. And that's just something that I hold dearly and close to me of like, I might be in it. I might have just come in it. I might be going into it. But the big thing for me is that this too shall pass. And I don't know. I hit that so hard because it's so important that so many people get stuck in their heads and they don't know where to go. And then they do this, and you're like, damn it. I wish I could have talked to him. Well, I mean, I don't know if I could have done anything, but these 3 situations, I wish I could have been able to talk to somebody and just say that, "Bro, this too shall pass. You will get through this. You will." So that's what I'm on tonight.
I appreciate your sharing so much. Thank you. And
Yeah.
so, to that point, to the this too shall pass, I heard someone describe depression one time as sadness without hope.
Uh,
And that stuck for me.
so one of my favorite acronyms is HOPE. Hold on, pain ends. And that's another one that I think about often. And it's true that there's so much sadness and depression. And I'm not even sure if I answered the question. I kind of went the other way here, but the hope thing threw me off. But it's something that you just can't lose hope with, even though I don't know. I've gone through some crap, and I'm sure all 3 of us, all 4 of us, have gone through things that we did not think that we could get through. I I had a situation with my daughter where I quit drinking for her. You can't keep drinking for somebody, but then you get into a situation that you're like, "I can't believe I'm staying sober during this." And it's like, you find this motor inside of you to be like, "Just keep going," like, just one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. That's another favorite one of mine is one day at a time, and though there is sadness and depression, you have to hold on to hope that this will end, this pain will end one day.
When I think about depression, I feel like it's isolating, it's lonely. I now don't want to speak with anyone. I no longer feel like expressing myself. I no longer feel like others care. Even though they do, I don't feel like that's the case. My self-worth is in the shitter. I don't want to get my ass out of bed. That's like the first image, the first feeling that I get when anything like that happens. I don't have a whole lot of experience with depression, especially not anything that would last any longer than 3 or 4 days. Then I normally begin to see the other side. There's always an action for me somewhere that I just start doing whether I want to or not. And that's what has, I think, helped pull me out of those moments. But I'm gonna share a story. I'm gonna share the story about being in the bayou in Louisiana because I went on a road trip, and I think I like this was the worst for me because, and well, you'll hear about it when I get to the end. Uh, but I went on a road trip last February to go and chase the sun, and I had every intention of, having a good time, and it was on my own. It was a 46 days living out of my truck, and I made it to the bayou, middle of nowhere in Louisiana, because I went straight to the Gulf Coast from Ontario, and then I plodded along, and I pulled over, and I had a complete and utter mental breakdown like, in the middle of freaking nowhere, uh, in southern Louisiana, and I spent 3 days in that hole, and then I moved on to Texas, and I remember going for a hike. I mean, this is the story. I don't even know if Julie knows the story.
Wow.
Um, I went for a hike in a state park, and this was after I had to give up the dog that I was hopeful getting to have too. And I went for a hike in a state park, and hiked up the side of a mountain. It was a pretty sunny day, but I still hadn't gotten over my own shit yet. I was still holding on to whatever the hell it was. And on my way up there, and I think a lot of it had to do with the state my life was in. The I knew I needed to change something, but I was too scared to freaking do it. Or so pile that on with a lot of dark feelings, and I'm standing up there on the top of this place, and you could look down and you could see the whole campground, and my heart's pounding, and it's not too often the thoughts of, if I just fell off this thing, nobody would care. And I sat in that moment for a little while. I'd walk to the edge and have that thought and then leave it because that's scary as fuck. And then walk to the edge and have that thought again and go, that's a far way down. Like, it wouldn't take too long to not feel this anymore, you know? And then so I went and made my way to the top of things, because I like to make my way to the top of things when I'm near a mountain, because I feel awesome when I do that. And I didn't that day as much as I was trying to enjoy it. And then there was some person up there that was trying to take pictures. And so I did that. That was the turning point. It was somebody else. And it was serving that other person, helping them with their social media stuff right in the moment. And then we ended up hiking the rest of the way together. But it wasn't, that was the darkest spot, let alone on top of having a complete and utter breakdown. Like, I didn't have my solution yet. And I think it's really, really dark until you find your solution, until you find the people or the person or the thing or whatever it is that helps you walk out. Because, Julie, when you talk about that sadness without hope, that's a pretty hopeless, that was a pretty hopeless feeling for me in that moment and in that time. That moment also spurred on a complete and utter change for me.
Right.
Like, I packed some shit up, and man, am I ever determined as all hell. So, like, I can take that really shitty moment, and I can see that moment for that stretch. And it was a stretch of about, what, a week and change, where it became my springboard. It became a source of action, even though it's fucking sucked.
I think the hard thing with action, when you've been stuck in depression for a really long time, is that action doesn't feel like it works for a really long time. So they always say, and I mean, I've dealt with depression, like chronic depression, since I was probably 15 years old. There have been years of my life where I feel like I didn't really get out of depression. And of course, alcohol just made it so much worse. And I can very much say I don't struggle. I really don't struggle with depression now that I'm sober. It's been a long time since I felt like I was in a bad depressive state. But when you've been depressed for months on end, and the quote unquote advice that you get either from well-meaning people or even from your therapist is just go do what's good for you. It'll feel better. Like, even if you don't feel like going for a walk, go for a walk. It'll help. Like, it doesn't help at first. If you're depressed and you actually have it's called anhedonia. So like just fucking nothing feels good, then that walk really isn't going to feel good either. And it is going to take a long time of consistently going for the damn walk, taking the shower, eating the healthy food, whatever it is, before that actually has an impact. And it's so frustrating when you're doing the thing that's good for you over and again, and you're like, it is not fucking working. It is so discouraging. And it's very much, it will work. If you've been depressed for a really long time, it's going to take a long time to pull yourself out of it too sometimes. And it's just a matter of not giving up. And I wish I could hug every person that is ready to give up, because you never know which day you're going to go for that walk and you're going to feel some kind of sunshine back in your heart for the first time in months.
Yeah.
But it will happen. Like we've said, it always passes. it just doesn't pass nearly as quickly as we would like for it to, and we don't have any control over when that's gonna happen.
Yeah. It's sometimes sometimes it gets you're so used to it that you get comfortable in the depression. And so you're like, this is how I feel. This is what I know. And so it's like you have to really force yourself to get out of your comfort zone in this uncomfortable state to to get out of this episode. And it's sometimes like, Rut by the Killers. Great song, unbelievable song. You can be in a rut and it's like so hard to get out of this rut. And whether it's a song, a movie, food, a shower, going to Vegas by yourself to go see Nate Bargatze and a hockey game, whatever it is, like just go do it. And and I use humor so much, and I loved Robin Williams, and I don't know too many people that get a humor contract in rehab, but I did. That's awesome. And so I freaking love humor, and humor helps me through this so much. So I'm so grateful that I have this you know, seventh wonder, of like humor to where I think Ricky Gervais said, if you can laugh in the face of adversity, you're bulletproof and you are able to get past the haters or get past the situation. And so I try to find a way to laugh when you can't laugh. If you can laugh, it's gonna make this world a little bit easier to go through this shit, this divorce, this, you know, girl that blew you off, or this idea that didn't work, or this stock that didn't work, or the movie that didn't go. Like, if you can laugh, it's gonna make things a little bit easier, and for me, that's helped so much to be able to laugh at myself, self-deprecating humor, it's like, "Hey, I wanna get a wife so I can really let myself go instead of halfway let myself go," like, I could just like, I can eat Blue Bell all the time instead of every other night, I'll just let myself go, that's what the get married, let yourself go, love it, And so, I don't know, I'm just grateful to laugh, I and if it helps somebody else, then, sign me up, But I don't know, I hate depression. I freaking hate it. I'm not a fan. 1 out of 5 stars. Would not recommend.
Horrible Rotten Tomatoes.
Exactly. I mean, I don't share this very often, so I'm surprised I've said so much, but I'll say this, one of my worst drunks was in Virginia, Richmond. The wife was out of town, and I'd gotten into some pain pills, and I don't know if I was like I wouldn't call this an attempt, but I would call it a spot that was so awful that you had to do drinking and pills to get out of it. And I threw up black, like I was in a 2-day can't even move hangover on the couch when I was supposed to be in Delaware the next day, but I was like frozen. I literally stood up and I was like throwing up. So that was like probably the closest that I know that I'd been to, not wanting to leave, but like closest to a spot of leaving this world. And so it's near and dear to me because I understand the lonesomeness. I understand not being understood, not being heard. And you somehow, some way, a phone call happens or a text happens or an email or something will be said that will kind of knock you off that and kind of get you back on track. And I don't know how to describe it, but I think it's maybe a God moment that something happens to where you're able to get past what you've been stuck in a rut over.
Yeah. I wanna compliment you on that and also go back to what, Steve, your story. I ironically had a very, very similar story when I was on the road a few years ago, leaving Texas. I was doing shows in Texas and Louisiana, and, I was I was leaving Austin on my way back to I didn't know where. I just knew I wanted to get out of Austin because it was the summer, and the summers in Texas and Louisiana are not fun. And I didn't know where to go. I was couch surfing just on the road and finding places to stay, and I kind of got into my head, and I I set out to, do the road and be a road comic for a while to see how it was. And things got really dark. And I've been wanting to talk about this for years now, and open up about it to people, because this was all in sobriety and recovery. This wasn't, when I was drinking and whatnot. And I mean, I was as close as it can get. I had it all mapped out in my head how I was going to do it. I was in my car. It was, um, I felt like I was at the end of my road. I was almost broke. Um, it was like, I don't know what to do now. And I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't call anyone or talk to anybody. I felt like I was alone, even though I had all these people, hundreds, thousands of people, family, friends, acquaintances, fellow comics that are in and out of the program, that are, always been there for me. But that wasn't it. It was me just scared to make that call, because I did not want to go back to Chicagoland, which is where I'm from and I'm at now. I wanted to keep going. And I just kind of I had to dig deep. And I remember leaving Texas. I was a few hours outside of it, outside of Austin, and my tire blew. And I had the last of my reserve cash, and I got the tire fixed. And I just sat out there, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And I called a friend in Los Angeles, and he said, come stay with me for a while, which ended up being a horrible situation, but that's for another time. And I went back to Los Angeles, and I guess call it, pulled myself up from the bootstraps. And just kind of had some moments to myself, and I was like, I just need to be here for a while. And I just needed a place to go. I needed somewhere to just, to rest, because I was so restless. And, to this day, it's like, I don't know if I was chasing something or running from something. That's something I've got to figure out. But it felt like a combination, but it felt like I was running from something, and I just don't know what it was. And I went back to Los Angeles for a while, and, never really talked about it a whole lot with people, and brought it up casually. And some of my friends didn't want to hear it. Physically got uncomfortable when I told them how dark I got and what I wanted to do. And they almost got upset or mad, because that's how a lot of men take out their emotions, is with anger, which is, the surface, which is, we all know that. That's the what we've been taught, is to be angry. It's okay, but it's not to be vulnerable, to be sad. And I've had some friends that I talked to about it, and they got mad. Why didn't you ever call me? And I was like, you don't understand. When you're in that situation, you feel like calling someone's the last and hardest thing to do. And I remember being in the mountains somewhere, Arizona, New Mexico, and just like, I could just drive off this cliff and it's over. And how dark that was, and that thought, I put it into my comedy. And I'll tell you, a lot of my friends don't like that bit I do, but it's real. I was out there, and I'm like, I could just all end it if I just did that. And I didn't. So,
Yeah.
but I had those really, really, really dark moments, and the darkest moments I've ever had are in recovery, not during my drinking. So, yeah.
I've definitely had those moments too. And I can recall very specifically some of the different plans and thoughts that I've had. And it's so scary to think about that. One of the things that keeps me going, no, and I'll say two things first really quick. It took me like way longer than it should have to realize that you don't actually have to drink emotions away. Like, in my head, I had to actually do something to make the emotion go away, and forever that was drink. And it must have taken me 6 or 8 months to realize, like, emotions just pass. You don't have to do anything. They're gonna go away. Every time. There's literally, in my 42 years, there's never been an emotion that stayed forever. And that thought has carried me through some dark moments. The other thing is, if you were to look back at the last time that I was on that cliff, and it wasn't a real cliff, but, when I was at my darkest time thinking about all those same things, if I could have just seen how I would feel and what my life would look like 1 year later, It would never even cross my mind to end it all at that moment, but there's no way I could know. And it's a matter of just believing that you just have to take one more step. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what it's gonna look like, but there's none of us, I think, that could say, 5 years ago, we knew exactly where we were gonna be today. Like, you get so stuck in it that you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't believe there's anything better on the other side of it. But there always is. It's just one step, one more step. If that's all you can do that day is one step towards whatever the light is. And just like the, again, with the hope that there's something over there. There's something that's going to happen in your life and it's going to look good again. It's just a matter of believing that that's going to happen. And I, for years, didn't have that hope. It felt like I was just trudging through the same dark forest day after day after day after year. Um, and and finally there's been a shift and there is hope. And I started taking just a step. But man, it gets to be such a dark place and you just can't believe that there's something better out there and that it is gonna pass. It always passes. Always.
No.
Julie, did you ever take antidepressant medication? Yeah.
Me? Absolutely. I took antidepressants for years off and on. So when I was a teenager, I was prescribed like Prozac and then I went on to Paxil and I had like the whole, I tried all of them as a teenager. And I didn't drink when I was a teenager. I didn't drink till I was in my 20s and I didn't drink heavily until I was in my 30s. And, I went off and on. I was on anxiety medication more solidly than I was the depression medication. I will say like, if I don't have much experience with the depression medication and drinking because that wasn't really something that I ever experienced, but I will say, like, anxiety meds actually work if you're not drinking. Um, and I was like, "Clearly anxiety medication does not work." And then I quit drinking and, like, 6 months in, I was like, "Oh my god, they actually do." So for anybody out there that's on medication for either anxiety or depression, it works way better when you're not dumping alcohol on top of it, just for the record.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I've
I've
taken go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I mean, I'm on anxiety and, uh, ADHD medicine right now, and I've recently, I don't know, maybe a year ago, year and a half ago, was on depression medicine just because of everything that was going on at the time, and, there's no, uh, if you have to take medicine, you have to take medicine. I'll never frown upon somebody taking medicine or going to a therapist. Sometimes you need both, and much of the time you do, but, um and sometimes I hate saying that I take medicine, that I have to take medicine, that I need to do this, but, like, sometimes you just in a situation where you have to take medicine, and luckily, I've weaned off from the depression medicine, and, but, there's stuff out there to help you, whatever you need. You just have to go out and find the help and get the help that you need, whatever that looks like, and and sometimes it's harder because you don't have the medicine, the alcohol to not feel what you feel. Sometimes that leads to whatever, sports, ice cream, cookies, any other gambling, whatever. And so sometimes you have to be aware or mindful that your addiction can kind of cross over to other things because it has for me for sure. As I'm not drinking, sometimes it pops up, and then sometimes a depression will hit, and then you're like, all right, I probably need to find a therapist. And it's like, all right, something has to change. Something needs to be done. But
And maybe that's, we talk about the action. Maybe that's the action. Go see a doctor, talk to somebody that can actually help you find the help you need.
well, sometimes
And it's so hard to do that.
because there's a fear of saying something that might scare somebody or might make somebody feel uncomfortable, or uh, they might look at you funny. And you have to be a bigger person, I guess, to just say what you feel and feel what you say and just be bold, be brave, Sarah Bareilles, brave, say what you want to say, it's an empowering feeling to say what's on your heart, to say what's in your head, regardless of what happens. It's the truth that will set you free, and you just have to run with the truth.
There's a very freeing feeling. Trevor, you just talked about something that you haven't really talked about too much. Um, Even though you've incorporated it into your comedy, there's there's freedom comes from the stories that we don't want to talk about,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it really does. And weight gets lifted, and that's almost impossible to share with someone who's like, "Fuck you. No, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I've already tried. I've already shared this with 10 other people, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit. It's clear because I'm still here in my bed, and nothing's happening."
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard ditch to haul yourself out of.
Yeah.
It it just is. And I'm just
And for so many of us, we're surrounded by people who can't handle our feelings anyway. So even if we finally work up the freaking courage to talk about what's really happening,
Yeah.
then we tell somebody and they don't know what the hell to do with it. Like Trevor, you were talking about with your friends who like almost get angry at that. And that is a lonely feeling too. Like finding people who can handle whatever it is you're talking about is so important. And it can be really hard to find those people too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's there's a quote I've posted a few times on my recovery Instagram is it's be the person that you needed when you were younger. And I look at that and I look at that as an age thing and in a recovery thing. And that's for me, it's being there for people, being present and showing up. And and it's just it's taking that call and it's listening to that person because, there are people I've lost to suicide and to overdoses and, like a overdose that was potentially, somebody that's just not happy with their life at all and just said, I'm just going to keep doing this. And, that was actually my brother about 5 or 6 years ago now. And, I've lost two family members to overdoses, almost lost another cousin and myself. I mean, how I got sober was, being drunk, high on coke and weed and being fucked up in San Diego and, being stabbed and attacked and was essentially left for dead in a roundabout way. And so I put myself in that category of almost dying from a drug induced, night out, or should I say a couple nights out. So, and it's, I've friends, family, I've seen it all. And, that's why I stick my neck out there. And just, it's just like I said, just be present and just be there for someone and, help the next person. That's it. And I don't care about recognition or anything. I just want to help that next person. That's it. And I just keep going through the line and I make myself available when I can.
Yeah.
I do want to
Or
say
go
too,
ahead.
sorry, Steve.
No, you go.
If there's anyone out there listening right now that doesn't have somebody they can talk to and that is really struggling, you can literally reach out to any person in the recovery community online, Instagram, on Facebook. There are recovery communities everywhere, and you can absolutely reach out to a stranger who, if they're in recovery, they're going to sit and listen to you because they've been there too. And that can sometimes be the safest feeling, easiest place to really say what is going through your heart and what's going through your head. And I would encourage anyone that's listening right now that is dealing with depression to seek that out. God, send me or Steve an email. Like we're here. Our contact information is everywhere. There's there's somebody out there that is going to be more than happy to sit with you and listen to whatever it is that's happening in your mind right now and get you through even just this dark day. Like you're never alone, even when you feel completely alone. There's a world of people out here, or just like Trevor and Barclay, that are all we want to do is help because we've been there and we know what it's like.
Yeah. 100%. And Trevor, I love that quote. And yeah, with that being said, I went and saw Mr. Rogers, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks on opening day. And it's just, I still watch it to this day to try to figure out how can I be like Mr. Rogers? Like I'm not going to have an impact like he is because that's just, that's like saying you can be as good as LeBron James. It ain't going to happen. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. I don't want to kill your dream, but LeBron's pretty good. So, but it's like you can be the Mr. Acceptance, like just accept people for who they are, as they are, where they are, instead of how you think they should be or how you think they should act or how you think they should what they should be doing. And it's like I try to be like Mr. Rogers for folks that are going through crap, listening without judgment. That's a fucking important piece to this world, is to listen without like that perfectly timed F-bomb. It's an important piece with being accepted, and that's nobody likes to be rejected. We like to be accepted. We all want to be accepted at the end of the day. And if we can listen without judging, that's a beautiful quality. To say the most fucked up shit you can think of or say, and be like, you know what? I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm not going to look at you any different. That's a beautiful thing when you find that and hold on to it.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap this one up here, but I'm just listening to you all talk, and depression, it really, and come from my own experience, it's got to be like a disconnection from myself. And if I'm not connected back to myself, then I can't connect to other people, and that's where my loneliness ends.
Yeah.
And so it's a dark topic to talk about, because depression leads to a lot of what Trevor and Barclay, you guys have experienced,
Yeah.
right? Loss, because those people didn't find their way out. They weren't lucky. They weren't part of the lucky ones, which is that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That sucker's jacket. And that's the reason why we're talking about it, at least giving it a little bit of space. I want to say thank you guys, because sharing your vulnerability when it comes to the thoughts that churn through your head when you no longer want to be here, they're real.
Yeah.
But we don't have to make them real. Thank you guys for coming here and showing up. It's nice to hear other men talk about some serious stuff, some stuff that hurts, some stuff that's right in the feelings. It's important. So appreciate your time, and I appreciate you guys coming on here and sharing about this really, really important topic. So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thanks so much for holding space today as we dove into such a tough but important topic. We ask that if it was helpful for you, to leave a comment or a review to let others know what you think. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.